I came home from a 7-month army deployment, expecting my mother to ignore my adopted daughter again at Christmas dinner. What I didn't expect was my dead father leaving behind a cedar box that legally transferred our $2 million lake cabin to my 9-year-old daughter the exact moment my mother called her not real family. My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 36 years old, a military prosecutor in the Army JAG Corps, and 3 weeks after returning from a deployment in Poland, I stood in my childhood hallway staring at a cedar chest hidden on the top shelf of our coat closet. I already knew my mother would humiliate my daughter at Christmas dinner. What I didn't know was that one small wooden box and a 9-year-old little girl would destroy the lie my family had protected for nearly a decade. My daughter's name is Chloe. Ethan and I adopted her when she was 6 months old, after 2 years of failed foster placements and court hearings that nearly broke us. She's 9 now. Gentle in the way children become when they learn too early how carefully they must take up space. For 9 years, my mother had referred to her in private as the adopted one. And for 9 years, everyone else stayed silent. My father didn't. Before he died, he built something with his own hands, sealed it shut, and gave me one instruction. "You'll know when it's time," he told me. Christmas Eve became that time. And exactly 42 minutes after dinner started, my daughter slid a cedar chest across the table and said the sentence we had practiced for weeks. "Grandma, Grandpa told me to give you this if you forgot I was family again." The room never recovered after that. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. If you've ever sat in a room where everyone watched a child get treated differently and pretended not to notice, you already understand this story. Comment one word that describes what that kind of silence feels like. And subscribe, because what happened at this Christmas table ended a marriage, exposed years of cruelty, and changed who owned a 340-acre lake property before dessert was even served. The plane landed at Chicago O'Hare just after noon on a freezing Sunday in late November. Snow covered the runway in thin gray streaks. I walked through arrivals carrying 2 duffel bags, my uniform garment case, and a thick folder I hadn't opened in almost 3 years. Ethan was waiting near baggage claim, with Chloe asleep against his shoulder, in a red winter coat. The second she saw me, she jumped down and ran. She hit me so hard I almost dropped my bag. "You got taller," I laughed into her hair. "You got skinnier," she answered seriously. Ethan kissed me once and took my duffel. And for one perfect moment, standing under fluorescent airport lights while snow blew against the windows, everything felt normal. Then we got home, and the first thing I did after unpacking was walk to the upstairs closet. The cedar chest was still there, dark, polished wood. Brass latch, leather carrying strap. My father's handwriting hung from the handle on a small tag. "For Chloe when the time comes." I touched the lid gently. 3 weeks until Christmas Eve. 3 weeks until my mother made her choice. Again. "You okay?" Ethan asked quietly from the doorway. I closed the closet. "Yeah," I said. "We're ready." The family group text arrived 2 days later while I was making waffles. From Mom. "Christmas Eve dinner this year." The message read, "Can't wait to have everyone together again. Bought special gifts for Tyler and Emma this year. Chloe can come too, of course." Of course. That phrase sat inside the text like poison hidden in sugar. Chloe read it over my shoulder while eating strawberries at the kitchen island. She didn't say anything. She just leaned her head lightly against my arm. Ethan looked up from the dining room table. "What'd she say now?" I handed him my phone. He read the message once, then again. Then he stood up quietly and disappeared into his office. When he came back, he carried a black 3-ring binder, almost 4 inches thick. He opened it carefully on the counter. Page after page, 9 years of evidence. Photos, screenshots, voicemails, Christmases, birthdays, emails accidentally sent to the wrong people. Comments overheard at cookouts. Every slight, every exclusion, every time someone chose silence. Ethan slid the new screenshot into the next empty sleeve. File 52, he said calmly. I stared at the binder. You kept all this? I needed proof I wasn't imagining it. I sat down slowly. Page 3, Chloe's second birthday. My mother giving Emma a silver bracelet while Chloe opened a dollar store coloring book. Page 11, Easter dinner. Aunt Sharon asking if the foster child really needed to come every year. Page 19, a Christmas card addressed to our real grandchildren. Chloe's name written separately underneath in cramped blue ink. Page 28, a voicemail from my mother. Well, adopted children are different emotionally. Page 43, last Christmas. Emma receiving diamond earrings. Chloe receiving a Walgreens hot chocolate mug. I closed the binder carefully. Dad saw all this, didn't he? Ethan nodded. He saw more than we did. That night, after Chloe went to bed, I sat beside her under the glow of her nightlight. She wore my father's old military dog tag around her wrist like a bracelet. The metal was dented near the edge from Vietnam. She never took it off. Mom, she whispered. Yeah, baby? Are we doing Grandpa's box this Christmas? I looked at her for a long moment. We are. What if Grandma gets mad? She probably will. What if everybody gets mad? I brushed hair from her forehead. You can survive people being angry when you've done nothing wrong. She thought about that quietly. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading. Why doesn't Grandma love me the same? I felt that one in my chest. Not because I didn't know the answer. Because I did. And because no child should ever notice it that young. She's broken in places that have nothing to do with you, I said softly. That's not your fault. Chloe looked down at the dog tag. Grandpa loved me. Yes, he did. He always saw me. My throat tightened. Yes, I whispered. He did. Christmas Eve arrived under heavy snowfall. I wore my army dress blues because my father had loved seeing me in uniform. My mother had always hated them. Said they made me look intimidating. Intimidating was useful. Chloe wore a burgundy velvet dress with black tights and little boots. Ethan carried the cedar chest to the SUV before she could see him move it. The drive to my mother's house took 20 minutes through thick falling snow and glowing downtown lights. The house looked beautiful from outside. That was always the trick with my mother. Everything beautiful from a distance. The driveway was already full. My sister Rebecca's SUV, my cousin Denise's sedan, Uncle Mark's truck. Warm yellow lights glowed through the windows. Christmas music drifted faintly from inside. The second we walked through the door, my mother hugged Rebecca first, then Emma, then Tyler. Then she turned to me with a stiff smile. You look exhausted. Good to see you too, Mom. Her eyes slid toward Chloe. Oh, she said flatly, you brought her. Chloe lowered her eyes instantly. That tiny movement nearly broke me. Yes, I answered calmly. I brought my daughter. Dinner started badly and got worse. 3 place settings for the grandchildren, not 4. A separate folding chair near the kitchen doorway with a paper plate beside it. My mother actually tried to seat Chloe away from the family table. Ethan moved the chair himself, directly between us, without saying a word. My mother's mouth tightened, but she didn't argue, because somewhere deep down, she already knew this night felt dangerous. Halfway through dinner, Aunt Sharon made the mistake. The fatal mistake. She leaned toward my mother near the stove and whispered just loud enough. Well, Naomi can't expect everybody to treat adopted children the same. Chloe heard it. I watched the words land. Children always hear the things adults think they hide. Chloe stared down at her mashed potatoes and kept eating carefully. Edge first. Exactly the way my father taught her. Real granddaughter to have it. Real granddaughter. Silence swallowed the table. Even Rebecca looked uncomfortable. Chloe lowered her eyes. Ethan's jaw tightened hard enough to twitch, and I felt something inside me become perfectly still. Not rage, not grief. Decision. Then my mother made one final mistake. She started bragging about the lake cabin, talking about rental income, future renovations, summer tourists, Airbnb profits, all while the true owner sat quietly beside me, holding a paper snowman card. I looked at Chloe. She looked at me, and I gave the smallest nod. It was time. She slid down from her chair, lifted the cedar chest with both arms, and walked slowly around the table. Every floorboard creaked. Every conversation stopped. She carried that box like it mattered, because it did. She stopped directly in front of my mother, set the cedar chest gently beside her wine glass, then straightened her shoulders exactly the way Grandpa taught her. The room was silent, and my daughter said clearly, "Grandma, Grandpa told me to give you this if you forgot I was family again." My mother froze. Actually froze. Her face lost color instantly, because she recognized the handwriting on the brass tag. She recognized the box. My father built it himself 3 months before he died. "What is this?" she whispered. "Open it," I said. Her hands shook opening the latch. The smell of cedar drifted into the room. Inside sat 3 items: a sealed letter, a stack of legal documents, a photograph. The photo hit her first. My father sitting on the dock at the lake cabin, holding 2-year-old Chloe on his lap, while both of them laughed at the camera. My mother made a small sound in her throat. Then she opened the documents, and everything changed. The cabin, the land, the investments, the bonds, the savings accounts. Every single asset had been transferred into an irrevocable trust 3 years earlier. Beneficiary, Chloe Marie Carter. Trustee until age 25, Naomi Carter. My mother flipped pages faster and faster. "This isn't real." "It is." "He would never do this." "He already did." Then she opened the letter. She read silently for almost a minute, and slowly her face collapsed. Finally she whispered, "I can't read this out loud." I stood up. "Yes, you can." "No." "Then I will." And I did. I read every word my father wrote, every observation, every disappointment, every single moment he watched my mother reject that little girl. He wrote about birthdays, Christmases, cruel comments, the way Chloe hesitated before entering rooms, the way she learned to expect less than the other children. And then came the line that shattered my mother completely. "She is my granddaughter in every way that matters. If you are hearing this letter read aloud, then you failed her again." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Even Aunt Sharon started crying. Then I read the final section. The audit clause. 3 years of illegal rental income from a property my mother no longer owned. $98,000. Plus interest. Recoverable by law. The room exploded after that. My mother screamed. Literally screamed. Not anger, not theatrics, pure panic. "He gave her the cabin?" She pointed at Chloe like she couldn't understand what she was seeing. And for the first time in 9 years, the entire family finally saw it too. Not subtle favoritism, not awkwardness, not different treatment. Cruelty, raw and undeniable. And the worst part? Chloe didn't look angry. She looked sad for her. That destroyed me more than anything else. I walked over and knelt beside my daughter. "I see you, Chloe." She touched the dog tag softly. "Grandpa saw me too." "Yes," I whispered. "He did. We left 10 minutes later. Snow fell hard outside. Nobody tried to stop us. Nobody even knew how. Ethan carried the cedar chest. I held Chloe's hand. And behind us, my mother sat crying at the head of the table while my father's letter rested beside her untouched pie. The audit settled in March. My mother paid back every dollar. The cabin belongs to Chloe officially now. We spend summers there together. Ethan rebuilt the dock last year. Name on a small wooden sign near the trail leading to the lake. And every Christmas Eve since then, there's always an extra chair at our table. Always. Because I learned something my father understood long before the rest of us did. Family is not blood. Family is who makes room for you before you have to ask. And sometimes the smallest person at the table is the one brave enough to finally make everyone else tell the truth.